bad, but
Columbus was that bad, huh? Yeah. Hey, interesting. Talking a little hockey this evening. There's only like this exclusive club in Montgomery called the Montgomery Hockey Club. It's me and one other guy.
That's like that.
He's a big Penguins fan too. Big
sport.
Pittsburgh everything fan. He's from up there, so
even here,
OG Yinzer. So it's hard. That's actually how we connected back in college. He was wearing like a Penguins jersey, and I had a Flyers jersey on, and I was like, walked up to him and started trash talking the Penguins just because he was the only guy I'd ever seen in another hockey jersey, and in good fun, and he started shit talking the Flyers, and we just and then it's just like brothers don't shake hands, brothers got a hug. So it was a good moment. Hey, there's Parker. Do we have any volume?
No.
Are the settings? Go to your settings, check your audio, and make sure it's set to your AirPods. We'll do this live on the air.
Scott, did the Penguins get like a lot of injuries somewhere in the season? Because I remember when I was following them when they first started, they were pretty hot.
Our whole D-core was injured in January for like 5 or 6 games. And then at the end of the year, we were missing our whole right side of the defense at one point. And Boateng came back. He was gone for like 8 games. And then our 2 other right-handed D-men got hurt again. And then our best left-handed D-men got hurt again. Okay. So, but there's no excuse. Like, we literally had the perfect setup to get in still. I mean, there's so many issues. We could make a whole show about me just ripping on this season. But, I
wish I could say injuries.
We had to beat Chicago. We had to beat Chicago and Columbus, and we were in the 2 worst teams in hockey. And we lost to both of them.
And we're back.
Oh, there we got some volume.
I hate technology, gentlemen. I hate it.
Yeah, it is what it is sometimes.
Mike wants to fail. Everything, just everything goes to crap right when you want to go to a live stream, guys. So
that sounds about right. That sounds about right.
How about them Wahoos?
Oh yeah, that's retro hat since that team no longer exists.
Yeah,
I'm triggered by it.
Yeah. Little throwback.
Triggered by it.
Go cry to somebody who cares.
So yeah, we were talking a little hockey before you got your stuff working again, but yeah, the Flyers didn't have the excuse of sucking because of all these injuries. We just sucked.
Well, the Panthers started out awful, and then got Matthew.
Did they get in as an 8 seed?
Huh?
Yeah.
That's right, because 8 seed knocked off the Bruins. That was like an 8-1. When was the last time that happened?
2 years ago.
Was it 2 years ago? Okay, so it's been
2 or 3 years ago. Or 2019 is the most
Was it
prevalent.
Tampa?
I don't think that's the last time it's happened, but that's the one everyone remembers.
Okay.
That could be bullshitting. I don't know. So.
A little bit of hockey talk. Talking some hockey.
Some hockey.
Yeah, it was a rough 2 days for the Bostonians. Murph and I were talking about this earlier. They lost Game 7 at home in the Garden to the 8 seed Panthers, and then the next night the Celtics lost to the Sixers, who didn't have Joel Embiid in that same building. So I bet you there's a lot of those same people were at the hockey game that were at the Celtics game the next night and lost them both.
Boston fans are the worst, though.
A bag of Portico! You cocksucker!
Boston fans, yes.
They cleared out that stadium so quick.
I mean, seriously.
Their historic season. But
seriously. God.
There's no excuse. I mean, they had a 3-1 lead. They easily could have won that series.
That's
crazy.
We were 1 game away from elimination and slowly just crawled back.
I mean, that's crazy, man. NHL playoffs are the damnedest thing. I mean, it is the wildest 2 months of any playoff. And I love the NBA playoffs. I don't watch hardly any NBA basketball until the playoffs. But NBA playoffs are fantastic. That's good basketball. You know, you watch the NCAA tournament, you see really bad basketball. So I like watching the NBA playoffs because for the majority, you see really good basketball and elite basketball talent. But the NHL playoffs, man, God, it's just a grind and just anything. Every series goes 7 games, it seems like. I mean, I swear, it seems like every series goes 7 games. And you get to a game 7 in the NHL playoffs, and literally anything can happen. The craziest things can happen. The weirdest bounces of the puck, the deflection in the wrong spot. It's just nuts.
I mean, that series, and I'm not going to say I called Boston losing because I didn't. I thought they were the best team. I thought they had a really good chance of winning a cup. If I was trying to win a Stanley Cup, I'd assemble my roster a lot like they did.
Yeah.
But, they rode goalies really hard all year. That's why they were winning a lot of games. They were winning a lot of games in the third period. And they didn't face a whole lot of resilience. Like, they had a 3-game losing streak, and that's it. So it's a perfect recipe to just, throw it away. And they did.
Yeah.
Didn't think it would happen, but
Crazy. And then they were up in game 7.
Mhm.
The last score I saw, they were up.
Yeah.
And then Murph sent that text talking about the Panthers knocking them out, and I was like, what?
Yeah. Scott was like 2 minutes ahead of me, and he just just texts like, "Oh man, I freaking called it." And I'm like, "What does that mean?"
Oh, shit. Like, no, like throw the phone out there across the room. No.
yeah, I'm bad with those things, but we're all happy now. So.
Yeah. Well, NHL playoffs and NBA playoffs going on at the same time is such good stuff.
The best is when the Panthers won the second game, and you could tell it was getting under Boston's skin. That was my favorite.
And he's back.
Oh,
Look at that.
gentlemen.
The man, the myth, the legend, the Crow.
Welcome back.
Dirty Dan the Garbage Man, and we're back.
Yeah, sorry, I was cooking dinner, so I got on a little bit late. And I forgot my email password, so I had to reset it.
Cameron, great to have you back, man. Great to have you back.
Man, Cam Crow after a several-week absence. It's good to have him back in the saddle. He's muted.
And you're muted.
Yeah, sorry. I would have jumped on while I was going to my training, but my hotel Wi-Fi was not very good, so
That's
it
the
was
worst.
Really anything.
That's the worst. Bad
Commies.
hotel Wi-Fi it ruins a trip, seriously.
The commies, man. It's the commies.
I mean, it seriously ruins a trip immediately if the Wi-Fi sucks. So, anyway, if for anyone that looks for the draft show, it's not on YouTube unless you click the link specifically for the show. But yeah, we got blocked for streaming some of the NFL Network stuff. It got canned. So,
But it is still up. It is still up, but we won't let you know where because the NFL will try and go and find it. So it is still up there. Out there.
Twitter, Facebook. But yes, so a little post draft reaction. My boys in the black and gold had one of the best drafts they've had in years, I think, on paper.
Best I can remember.
The best that I can remember. I don't know how you feel, Cameron, about the Titans picking up Bo Callahan himself, Will Levis. You might get a draft day reference there.
Yeah. I don't know. For me, honestly, in the second round, I don't think it's such a bad pick. As a first rounder, maybe even a late first rounder, I could have seen that. But I just feel, and I think that this is the opinion of most of the media right now, is that people were just kind of blowing him up based on the potential, but there wasn't a whole lot to fall on. Whenever it comes to the draft, like there's a part of it where you're trying to draft someone that the fans are going to get behind, and I don't think anybody was going to get behind Will Levis as a top 10 pick.
Yeah.
But anyway, I think as a second round draft pick, it's not terrible. I don't think it's he'll be a huge improvement over what's already there, but we'll see what happens.
I mean, Will Levis is a big fan of Will Levis as a top 10 pick.
I think that was the biggest issue, is that maybe he got, in his own opinion, and this is maybe what's going on, I don't know, but maybe he saw that and he overhyped himself to think, oh, I'm going to go. I mean, I just didn't see it. I saw his stuff at Kentucky, and I mean, I wasn't all too impressed. It was very inconsistent. Same with Anthony, Richardson. I forget his name. But, I mean, do I think that, with the Colts making that pickup, I think that was good for them. They needed a quarterback because, good Lord, I don't know if any of their quarterbacks right now are going to be on the roster next year, if not through half the season. I mean, they've got some aging quarterbacks there. If I'm not mistaken, is Matt Ryan still under contract there?
I think he is.
Nope.
Unfortunately.
No.
He is not.
They-
Okay.
They
Well,
have Nick Foles.
Nick
and
Foles.
Gardner
I knew he
Minshew.
was. I knew he was
Nick
there.
Foles, baby.
Yeah.
But the
He's got
Titans, I'm sure would really like to for that one to hit, because it's kind of worrisome when you look around that division right now. Trevor Lawrence is coming into his own. If C.J. Stroud winds up taking the Texans and develops there and becomes a really talented player, and then Anthony Richardson, who wasn't all that impressive at Florida but has unbelievable athleticism and potential. I think Anthony Richardson makes more sense as a top 5 pick than Will Levis does, just based on the fact we've seen the athleticism on display. And his biggest thing is he just hasn't had enough reps on the field, and I think that he probably should have taken over Emory Jones, that last year he was there, and I just think there was some bad. I mean, that's why Dan Mullen's no longer the head coach there, because there were just some
One of several
bad
reasons.
decisions, and
That he's an idiot.
And he hates to go to recruit, from what I've heard. And I'm like, that's kind of a big part of the game.
Big
So-
deal, buddy.
Yeah, I hate to go recruit. Well, let's not have him as our head coach.
Idiot. Let's see. All right, so I pulled this graphic. This is no surprise.
Yes.
The number of players drafted from each conference, the SEC and the Big Ten are far and away have the most players drafted. So, I mean,
17 years in a row that the SEC has
the best
drafted.
teams come out of these two conferences.
hmm
I mean, look at
17 years in a row, the SEC has been the most drafted out of each
Is
draft.
it 17 in a row?
17 in a row. Which is, I mean, everybody talks about, the Power Five or the Group of Five. I really think, and y'all might disagree, but I know things are changing, but it's really the Big Two. It's the SEC and the Big Ten. They're the money makers. And these next
combine and find their own, form their own conference.
which I don't doubt happens. I mean,
Call it the MFL, the Mother League. That's
You
what it used to be.
know what's funny about that graphic though? I'd have to see the full numbers breakdown, but it's funny because in the Big Ten, a majority of those players I feel like revolve around maybe 3 or 4 different programs, and I feel like the SEC is the same way.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it obviously every year is a good year for the SEC whenever it comes to the draft. It really brings home how defeating last season was for us. The fact that we had 3 drafted in the top 10, 2 drafted in the top 3, the best offensive and defensive player in the draft, and have finished one of our most disappointing seasons in the last 15 years, probably, just based on the potential and what wound up kind of occurring out of it. I think that's the pain.
That's what happens when you can't stop a nosebleed.
Yeah, well,
and can't get any ground. Didn't really help on the offensive or defensive side.
When you
Some
don't
terrible
run the
play
ball
calling.
and don't play good defense, not even Bryce Young can overcome all that.
I mean, I will say this though, like if you score 49 points and what we score against LSU 30, 31, you should be winning those games.
Agreed.
Right.
You should be
Your
winning
defense
those.
can't stop anyone.
Despite Bill O'Brien, you should be winning those games.
Agreed.
So
The problem
I can't
is
disagree with
Golding. I mean, like I said, when you can't stop anyone, it doesn't matter what you do on offense. If
Anybody
you can't
see that
stop anyone.
spring game stat final for Ole Miss? By the way, anybody see that?
Good luck.
53-52. Good luck. Enjoy the ride. You're going to enjoy that. We've been dealing with it for 3 years.
Oh gosh, 4.
Guess what? Ole Miss will be like, oh, we picked someone away from Alabama. You can have that guy. All right, I've been wanting him gone.
I mean, look, if I'm welcoming Kevin Steele back with open arms, that's how bad Golding was. Like if I'm excited that Kevin Steele's back, that means that's how miserable it was with Golding. Because I'm not a big Kevin Steele as defensive coordinator guy, but I'll welcome him back over Golding, for crying out loud.
yeah,
53.
yeah, I'm excited to see
These
him
were
go.
the
And
Bama picks here.
Very good.
Somebody drafted. I mean, the Texans. God, what were they thinking? They must not watch any game film on Henry Tutu. I can't
They're
believe
really
somebody
excited about
drafted
him.
Latu in the 3rd round.
I think no. We were talking about Henry To'oTo'o in the 5th round. I think DeMarco Hellams is one of literally one of the worst players that could have possibly been drafted out of Alabama. That's just my opinion. I mean, I never really saw any value in his game at all. But I was
Any value in his game at all? Speak the truth, Cameron. Come on now. Tell me how you really feel.
Hot take. Dun dun
Yeah.
dun.
the toughness of our team came in Brian Branch and Jordan Battle, who were also respectively drafted. I can't believe Brian Branch fell to the 2nd round, personally. I mean, I thought
I can't either. Yeah.
that he was a steal to the Lions in the 2nd round.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Because I just thought he improved so much from freshman to senior year. Like, it was just so drastic. Yeah, I mean, and then Jordan Battle as well, just tough guy. I don't know if y'all remember his recruiting process, but we were looking at this like 5-star guy who wound up committing to Alabama like a couple days before signing day, and then reversed his commitment back to Michigan, and it was like this big deal. Well, Jordan Battle changed his commitment from Ohio State to Alabama based on that, and then wound up coming here, and he just really, really talented player. I'm happy he came back for his senior year. I'm disappointed it didn't end in a better fashion, but he's a player that I always enjoyed watching.
Yeah, I got you. Yeah, I can't believe somebody drafted To'oTo'o, honestly, or Latu in the 3rd round. That shocks me almost more than To'oTo'o getting drafted at all.
Well, but with Latu, at least in my opinion, like the intangibles are there. You know, like, I mean, he had last season, not this past year, but the year before, 2021, he had some flashes of like kind of brilliance at times, you know. So
Yeah.
tight
He was
ends,
the cardiac kid to me.
yeah. Well, I mean, he dropped a lot of passes,
Yeah.
which was, you know, that was.
Or
his
when he was catching and running, you knew it was going to get ripped out.
Yeah. Near the goal line, it's like he just didn't know how to hold on to the ball. I think he fumbled at the goal line like 10 times. So
None of them know how to hold on the ball now. You even watch the A-Day game? It was like stone hands out there. Everybody was trying to catch with their feet.
I did not watch the 8A game. I honestly had not even watched other podcasts. I'm interested to see what y'all's thoughts are at some point on.
You didn't miss much.
Yeah.
It was.
I mean, very vanilla. and a lot. And
Yeah.
from what Hunter actually, a little update. Hunter, what was the information that you provided about a certain quarterback?
I don't know.
You said something about Ty Simpson.
About Ty Simpson?
No, I sent a text saying he's in a boot
Oh,
for 4
yeah.
weeks. Does anybody
You
know
said
anything
a
about
boot.
that?
I thought it was a cast, like a
Or a
hand
cast.
cast.
That's what I meant. Like a cast on his. He was in a cast for 4 weeks. Is all I saw. I didn't know what it was on. Arm,
He'll be
leg,
fine.
knee, neck, whatever. But it
Well,
said he was in a.
I think it
he'll be in
was
a
his
cast
hand.
for the next
I
4
think it was
weeks.
his hand.
'Cause didn't he bang
and
his hand on somebody's
He
helmet?
did. It was on the first play, the very first play, and it happened. I think he had probably a hairline fracture of some sort, and it'll heal on its own. But we'll see.
well,
I
are
mean,
y'all
the numbers, Milrow wound up with 200-something yards passing and a couple of touchdowns. But he also threw 2 picks. He missed some easy throws you would expect him to miss. He had a couple of nice deep throws, but missed some of those. But he missed a lot of real easy throws. That I don't know that we can afford for him to miss in big games.
Well, does the Tyler Buckner transfer, does that get anyone excited in this chat?
No. No.
But let me say this. We went undefeated and won a championship with Greg McElroy. So,
But very
if we're
different.
going
time.
back to running the ball, but if we're going back to running the football, like making a commitment to running the ball and getting nasty in the trenches again, and then have a quarterback that might throw 20 touchdowns but not turn the ball over a lot, that may be what this guy is.
I think the reason why we hired, Kevin Steele and Tommy Reese is, Tommy Reese is young, but he runs a throwback system, kind of that.
Agreed.
And I think
Agree.
Nick Saban has felt, the shift, which has benefited Alabama a lot, but it's also we're losing a lot of that toughness feel in that. Well, look at Georgia. What about their offense is like super fancy?
I'm telling you, that's the blueprint he's going back to, I think.
And those Georgia teams look very similar to the Alabama teams of 2011, 2012.
Thank you. Yep.
Bingo.
Who doesn't turn the football over, gets the ball to his playmakers. If you have the playmakers, Alabama in 2009, we weren't throwing it a whole lot. We knew we had a Julio Jones that would bring the ball down. We knew that we had a Mark Ingram that was going to give you 30 carries a game and 150 yards. Trent Richardson, who was going to be right behind him with another 100 yards. And we had good physical tight ends that could run block but also catch the ball. And
Colin Peak.
It doesn't. You could be running the triple option if you have the athletes. If you have better athletes, you're going to run the heck out of it. And I think Georgia has shown that. Nothing that Todd Monken was doing was extremely difficult or challenging or crazy, but it was efficient, and they didn't turn the ball over, and they played really physical defense on the back end. And I think that's what Nick Saban is really trying to get at. I think that's what Kevin Steele is known for and will likely bring on the defensive end.
Bring some toughness back.
Yeah, and I think Tommy Reese, like I said, is a throwback to a more traditional offensive style. Now, do I think he's going to it's going to be a hybrid offense, but I think you're going to see us get under center more, run the football, not, have some bigger backs, more physical backs rather than some of these like super speedy guys,
and actually commit to it.
Yeah. Because Georgia, that's what they have not, Kirby did not go and change everything he did to win these national championships. He's been doing the same thing. Everybody else has just gone so soft. He was able to stay physical and keep winning.
He did exactly what he learned under Saban to do for 10 years, 20 years, however long he's been coaching with him. 8 years at Bama as the DC, but it was the blueprint. Like you said, Cam, it was vintage. It looked just like the Bama teams, the early, late 2009, 10, 11, 12, right around then, with solid quarterback play, physical up front, physical in the trenches, physical on defense. And win games.
The thing that stinks, though, and I'm looking forward to Oklahoma and Texas joining the conference, and some of this is going to be everybody's going to play everybody more, and it's going to be not like 15 years before you play a team from the East or whatever the case is, because Georgia's schedule this season is ridiculous.
Laughable.
And it honestly, last year, what was the toughest game they had on the schedule? Tennessee at home.
Dude, they dismantled that
They
team.
lost
That hung
the biggest
52
win
on us.
in the last 20 years for them after they beat us. I mean, it's like their schedule has been so beneficial to them. They haven't had to go play in Baton Rouge. They haven't had to go. Auburn has been down. It's not like these are the upset Auburn teams that have the talent to compete with the Georgia. Florida's down. So it's like they're a very good team, but they just don't have to come up against nearly the road environments that Alabama has come to. Arkansas, they're not the best team, but going and playing in Fayetteville is hard. Like that is
a place to play.
It's a lot harder than Vanderbilt or Kentucky or Missouri.
Vanderbilt, South Carolina is actually a very, very raucous environment, but South Carolina hasn't been even anywhere near competitive enough to compete with them. So, I mean, it's like Alabama this past year. I mean, we played at Tennessee in Baton Rouge. Next year, we play at A&M, which is one of the toughest environments that you can play in. Yeah. And, Ole Miss is a tough environment, even though it's a smaller stadium. Mississippi State is one of the – we usually –
Cowbells.
It's crazy how you just don't see that on the East, on the side of the East, especially when Florida's down. Now, I do think going to play at Tennessee could be a test of fortitude for them because, but anyway, it's their schedule is
that quarterback Tennessee has is supposed to be pretty good. The one taking over for Hooker.
Milton, is that right?
Is that him? The one that took over for him at the end of last year after he tore his knee?
I will say this about him. He has a cannon arm. He started 2 years ago. Was not accurate at all. He was better at the end of last season, but I think the jury's still out on him.
Well,
a lot of our Knoxville friends have already christened him as the Heisman.
Surprising.
Well, I don't know if he's going to be the Heisman, but I will say, I think the reason Tennessee's offense is so explosive and good is because of whatever Josh Heupel's doing, and I think that he made Hendon Hooker the star that he was last season, and really, and probably Jalen Hyatt too. I mean, his offense is just so methodical, and we watched it against Alabama. We could not stop it. And,
think about that, though. And then, like 2 weeks later, Georgia just dismantled it. Held him to 10 points. And Hooker looked like Malik Willis.
Pedestrian. And now, not taking anything away from Georgia, but Tennessee had just come off their biggest win in school history. True. They were playing on the road in a 2:30 game in Athens. The schedule did not play out for them. If they play Tennessee, if they play at home last year, Georgia's probably in for a rude awakening as well. So, I mean, maybe.
I think your first point, I think they were going to lose whoever they followed the Alabama game. And they blew their wad in that game and had, ended up getting blown out by South Carolina, at the end of the year. Gave up 60-something points to them. Like, we should have lost that freaking game. It's freaking bullcrap. Us losing that freaking game.
Well, I will say this too, and I think you're right, Cam. Like Josh Heupel has completely changed that offense.
Mm-hmm. It's like Lane Kiffin and what Steve did for us. I mean,
yeah, exactly. But in the same token, I don't think he's doing things that are unstoppable.
No,
or that intuitive and innovative. So. I don't know. It just shocked me, like a team like Alabama with a coach like Nick Saban came out like that last year. And I think Kirby did an excellent job getting them ready to play that game. And, the weather was bad and there was all these excuses, but you can stop that offense. And
I agree. I mean, and it goes back to it on your point, Scott. I know, or actually to both of y'all, Cameron and Scott. Cameron, you said that DeMarco Hellams was one of the worst players drafted out of Alabama. There's that. But then we all – possibly. Yeah, I mean, I don't disagree. The guy could not cover many people in the SEC. I mean, and that's saying something even for
reminded me of Josh
Vanderbilt.
Jobe, who somehow is still playing in the NFL.
My guy's will make a career somehow. I don't know how, but he will. But to the point of Jalen Hyatt, like we saw what happened in the draft. A lot of people thought he was going to go. Oh, he'll go, first or second round.
He went in the third round?
He went in the third round, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
Which
And it's from
receivers? It was a weird draft for receivers. I don't really fully understand it, but
Well, from what I read on like the reports from the NFL teams is that he has one great thing is his speed and getting deep. Other than that, his route running's okay. But in the times that he whipped up on Cameron's point, DeMarco Helms, the guy caught 5 passes for 220 yards, 3 touchdowns. So I'm like, the guy, if that game hadn't happened, who knows? He might have been a 5th or 6th round guy. But to all those points, I mean, it just goes back to that, as you said, for Josh Heupel. It's not anything crazy. It is very stoppable that, and it was proved by Kirby. So,
well,
it goes back to us. Go ahead, Cameron. I'm sorry.
When you have 17 penalties, and I know y'all
Didn't
have
help.
your thoughts on whether some of those were legit or not. I think the majority of them were legit. When you have pre-snap penalties, the referees are not causing you to have a false start or go offside. And also, I will say that our coverage skills were bad all season. It wasn't just the Tennessee
Agreed.
game.
It was a fact of coaching, technique. It was technique of how to coach it, how to defend the ball, and then, just either complacency all around the board, especially on the pre-snap penalties like that. That you cannot have those in that kind of game. You cannot have them.
No, I mean, I remember in the Texas game, Will Anderson jumped offside. This is our best player, jumped offsides on a 3rd and 3 twice.
Yeah.
And how does
He
Yeah,
was
he
lined up
took a-
offside. I think he was lined up offsides like twice.
We gave him another first down with an unsportsmanlike.
Yeah, and then he ran over that
later.
guy like 10 seconds after the play. And I'm just like, what are you doing?
We were just undisciplined in general.
Agreed.
All year. Like that should have been a precursor of what we were about to go through with that team last year.
And it's unfortunate because, you look at it and it goes back to your point, Cameron, that you said it's a shame with all the talent we've had in the last 2 years that we didn't pull at least one more title. And that's my opinion. I mean, it's sad in that aspect. We wasted probably, I don't know, this will grind some people's gears, but one of the best quarterbacks in the last 25 years. I'm not just talking about for Alabama, but overall, got decision making. Now, is he undersized? Yeah, he's undersized, but I mean, you just don't find that. It's just a waste. I feel like it's a waste, unfortunately.
Yeah, I am honestly a believer that Bryce did more with
Less.
No, I'm not going to say less because the talent, it's still 4-star, 5-star talent. But as far as he was like the one dog with a bunch of kind of like, I'm just here for the money, or I'm just here for this, or I'm just here for the glory. And he was like the only guy that had like that drive. I want to win. I mean, if Bryce
that
Young,
4th quarter against Auburn,
on our team, if Bryce Young's not on our team in the 2021 season, I think we're 8-4.
Fair. At best.
That's how big of a difference he made.
Yes.
I mean, last
Agreed.
year, think about it. If he's not on our team and Jalen Milrose starting, we're
7-5.
7-5.
Yeah.
So
I'm with you there.
I think he carried more load than any quarterback has had to in Alabama in the last 15 years. I mean, seriously.
That's fair.
Agreed.
Because he didn't have, his thing is, he had the guys to do it at running back, but it goes back to the thing that, we all talked about. The offensive line sucked. I mean, couldn't do anything.
And by the end of the 21 season, all the running backs were hurt. We were down to one running back and a receiver having to play running back.
How long has it been? Yeah, that was wild. McClellan got hurt. Roydell Williams got hurt.
Wardell was gone. McClellan was gone. All within 2 weeks of each other.
Ryan Robinson, he went from a guy that I just never really thought was going to be a transcendent player at Alabama to literally carrying the running game for
A huge
Then we had
piece.
Trey Sanders, who comes in and plays, and I'm like, okay,
yeah.
He
But
just
Because
never was the
what-
same after that car accident.
car accident, yeah.
But the offensive line, going back to that, I mean, it used to seem like every single draft, or there was always a player expected to be like a top 10 pick, on our offensive line. And it just has not felt that way here recently to me.
Last one was like
Evan
Jonah
Neal
Williams,
wasn't
right?
a dominant. Even Evan Neal didn't like dominate games. Like
No, I never
you
felt like
expect,
he was like this big difference maker on the
yeah.
field.
I think it was Jonah Williams, the last one I felt like was a dominant guy. And even then, I mean, you're still not talking about like Cam Robinson. And I know I've crapped on Cam Robinson numerous times. That's just me being a Bama guy. He was always guaranteed one false start a game at his career at Alabama. Won a game. But, I mean, dominant.
Yeah.
So,
like Evan Neal was a highly drafted player. I just never felt like he was this
he was a
game
good player.
changer.
But right,
player at Alabama.
he didn't just like close down the left side of the field.
Yeah.
No.
I mean, so
He wouldn't have been picked where he was if he wasn't a monstrous person.
Yeah, if it's,
Oh,
it's
yeah.
such a freak athlete doing those jump splits, being 325 pounds doing those jump split things in the gym. And I mean,
blow a knee
whatever,
out like
but,
that.
But yeah, I agree, Cam. He didn't blow me away like you would expect a lottery left tackle in the draft to do.
But it's not like we haven't been recruiting some of the best,
It's developing.
year by year players. I mean, we got the Brockermeyer twins, and one of them's transferred, and neither of them
James actually played center in the A-Day game for one of the squads. I saw him a few
Okay.
times.
Now, I'll say
Jason
that.
Layton was supposed to be. I mean, and has potential, but I mean, they were supposed to be like day one starter competing for the tackle position on the right side, and they just never did.
And they had to go to Vanderbilt to get Steen last year because none of those guys could play left tackle.
And I'll say it early here. Here's my early start.
Although Steen did get drafted by the Eagles, so
yes, he
good
did.
for him.
Yes, he did. Proctor, I know I've talked to Jeff numerous times about this kid. He's a day one guy.
Proctor!
He with this offensive line, I think
He looks mammoth.
he's a big man. He's over like 330, something like that, about 6'6".
Wow.
I mean, big dude, big man.
Big dude.
But like we're looking at stuff like that. I mean,
I tell you, I used to hate playing Arkansas in the Brett Bielema days.
oh yeah,
Even though they
Bust you in
weren't
the
very
mouth.
good, my goodness, they had like 6'11", like 300-pound offensive
Big
line.
hogs.
I thought
Big
they
hogs
said
up front.
at one time they said that Arkansas's offensive line was bigger than the average NFL offensive line,
Yeah,
which
some
was
of our best-
insanity.
Some of our best defensive teams were literally pushed around by Arkansas.
Yeah,
in
they're
the Brett
big. I mean, good Lord. They all averaged over 325. I was like, good gosh.
Yeah, it was.
I hated those run DMC years of Arkansas football.
Yeah.
Darren McFadden.
That was miserable watching Darren McFadden just gallop like a stallion up and down the field against Alabama, outrunning all our defensive backs.
Speaking of running backs, I want to carry it back to the NFL real quick because
I'm down.
my uncle is a big Falcons fan, huge Falcons fan, and this tags along with Jameer Gibbs as well. I just cannot fathom at this point drafting a running back. I know Najee was a first rounder and he was, a legitimate talent, but drafting one in the top 15, especially the top 10, just doesn't make any sense. And it reminded me of Darren McFadden. He was supposed to be this world killer NFL running back and was just a huge bust. And the thing is it just isn't worth it. It's a 4-year lifespan, basically, and it.
And that's being generous.
He was a Heisman winner, and he was the 43rd pick in the NFL draft.
Yeah.
I mean, that
Zeke went fourth in that same draft.
I just don't understand. I mean,
Look what's happening. Zeke's already out of the league.
Bijan
Is Zeke
Robinson.
not on the league on a team yet?
Mhm.
Damn.
Bijan Robinson could be like a can't miss talent. But the thing is,
Yeah.
so is Saquon Barkley, so is Christian McCaffrey, who I know had a strong year once he went to San Francisco last year, but both of them on the field, it seems, in the last 5 years. And so it's just a weird, like Jahmyr Gibbs maybe, because he can. And I guess John has some of that capability too. It's just not worth.
The longevity, it's not. I agree with you, Cameron. It's just not worth it as far as paying out as in the grand scheme, financial wise, because I mean 3 to 4 years barring an injury. I mean, we saw it happen to Clyde Edwards-Helaire. You know, I haven't seen anything since he got hurt. Really, I mean, he's like now the number 2 guy. But
Ezekiel Elliott was like a Hall of Fame caliber player at one point, and then he's just like
he's done.
Nothing,
he's 30 and
you
he's
know?
done. I mean,
he's fat.
Derrick
Come on now.
Henry, like he had a great year last year, and he's had a great last few years. But I wouldn't be surprised if next year he runs for 800 yards. I mean, because that's just the way the lifespan of a running back is.
Mm-hmm.
But my biggest point, y'all are talking about one side of Philadelphia or one side of Pennsylvania, y'all's team being homers, but the Philadelphia Eagles, my goodness,
they're about to be legit.
Getting richer,
stockpiling Georgia and Alabama players.
Yeah,
I mean, you just drafted another.
They got 6 players off the Georgia defense for the last 2 years. The national championship defense. They got
and
6
maximizing value too.
They've got
and they picked up DeAndre Swift. So they got 7 Georgia players on that team. If you count DeAndre Swift.
The Titans traded their best offensive weapon to the team that didn't need any more weapons, and then they draft Treylon Burks, who was awful last season.
He was terrible.
I mean, it's like, but
I thought he was going to be different. I really did.
Yeah, I did too.
But my thing is, the Eagles, they're just making good, smart moves. Their offensive line has a veteran in Jason Kelsey with a young talent. They're also there, very physical, tough. Landon Dickerson, some of those guys. Their defense is just Alabama and Georgia guys all over it. Devontae's there.
Devontae, Jalen.
I mean, they're just
Steen just drafted Steen.
Yeah.
Swift. I mean, this is going to be.
Players,
I would not be surprised. I don't know, because I don't know if it's going to be this next year, but maybe the following year that the Eagles win the Super Bowl. I'll say it. I want to say because I know they just went to it, but they just lost a lot of defensive players due to free agency and everything. So I don't know yet. I'll see a couple games.
Defensive players.
Yeah.
So we'll just plug these guys in.
Yeah, I mean, their defense is still one of the best units in the league.
It is? Okay. Yeah. And y'all are educating me on that.
But they got exposed in that Super Bowl. They all they had to do was make one stop in that Super Bowl, and they would have won that game, but they just couldn't do it.
Yeah, but I think that they kind of were a little bit ahead of schedule last year. I mean, who thought Jalen Hurts was going to be an MVP caliber player and take them to the Super Bowl? Now they've proven they can do it, and they've proven that Jalen is more than just a game manager or a system quarterback. He is legitimately talented.
Well, there's a year of game film on him now.
Yeah.
You know, a whole offseason for defensive coordinators to watch film and study and all that stuff. So he may – he'll have to elevate his game to maintain the level he set last year. That's just part of the evolution of, playing quarterback. Mm-hmm. But they're certainly putting good players around him.
I honestly thought the Chiefs were going to win that game easily, too. I think Patrick Mahomes is probably the best quarterback we'll see in a very long time.
Maybe even argue with that.
So,
hard to argue with that.
If Chiefs don't make it through the AFC and the Eagles take care of business like they should, in my opinion, I could see them with a ring next year.
Yeah.
We shall see.
Well, I think Mahomes validated a lot, too, with Tyreek being gone, and then he just, all he did was lead him to the Super Bowl. Now, having Travis Kelce helps, who's open every single play.
Okay, that's
matter
like okay. You want to stop? I want to stop us right there on the Travis Kelsey thing. You want to call? You want to know what having a cheat code is? Having that man playing on the field at tight end. That is one. I'm not. I don't care about his antics. I don't care about his political views. That guy right there is a freak of nature at tight end. All right,
I mean,
that is one of the most insane athletes, freak of nature athletes I've ever seen.
hey,
Bar
tell
none.
him when they break huddle, I'm throwing it to Kelsey on this play, and he's wide open.
I mean,
You know, he
Guys
throws
are
the ball, and when the camera pans and you see Kelsey catching it, there's nobody within 5 yards of him. Every play. I'm like, how's a guy open every single play? But he is.
He had like 4 catches for 18 yards and 4 touchdowns one game last year.
that's insane.
It was absurd.
Hey,
And he's
Fonz,
just
that's like
bossing
that.
guys.
What was that game against? Was it the Bears that Bettis had like 5 carries for 1 yard and 3 touchdowns?
Yeah.
That's what hurt me so much back in the day with Julio Jones. Like, he was the most dominant, one of the most dominant receivers in the league at that time. 14, I think he had like 6 straight 1,400-yard receiving seasons or something, which was, in the NFL is hard to do. And
he was top of the list.
but he would have like 3 touchdowns on the entire season. It's like Matt Ryan forgot that he existed in the red zone. And I'm like,
red zone Matt Ryan is the worst.
It was absolutely absurd. He only had like 60 touchdowns, for his career basically, because they just forgot about him in the red zone. I mean, sometimes he wouldn't even be on the field. I just didn't even know. I think
he only had double digits touchdowns once in his whole career.
And it was like
it was early on.
Yeah.
Was-
But all the rest, it's like 6, 4, 3, 7, 4, 2, 3, and he's like 125 catches for 1,700 yards and 2 touchdowns.
Yeah, this man
like,
this man had a 300-yard receiving game. That is how talented he is, and that was on like 12 catches.
He's got like a 60-inch vertical. You'd think they'd throw like a back shoulder fade to him every now and then in the end zone.
Nobody's picked him up yet, right?
What's left of him?
But think about like if Julio Jones played for like the Chiefs with like a legitimate
like prime Julio Jones.
Yeah. Oh yeah, man. Or Tom Brady. Like imagine if he'd have got.
Yeah, they both got in the end of their career, unfortunately.
I know.
They both
they hooked up about 10 years too late.
Yep. Yeah. Well, I'm curious to hear from Hunter on his thoughts on. I know we're not a big NHL podcast, but his thoughts.
We were just talking about it. Yeah.
Yes, we are.
Yeah.
NHL, baby. We love the NHL here. You made me get out my hockey jerseys.
Yeah, I was pretty dumbfounded.
Unbelievable. We were one game away from elimination, and the Panthers just slowly clawed their way back.
So who do they have next? So who did the Panthers
Now,
play?
wait a second. So Murph said, if I get this right, so basically the Panthers were in like a playoff series leading up to the playoffs, because if they lost any game like in the last week of the season, right, they were out.
Yeah.
So
They were
were
out.
win or go home.
They were out if the Penguins would have beat the 2 worst teams in the league.
I thought the Penguins were gonna make it. Like
So did I. Jesus Christ.
So did I, he goes.
I'm gonna stop.
But the Bruins.
This rant today is brought to you by the Couchcasters.
The Bruins, from what I heard and from what I've been told, this team that was conglomerated, if you want to go look that word up, for the Bruins, was supposed to be quote unquote one of the best ever. I don't know if that's
in the regular season.
No.
I don't know.
Now.
It's just one of the things I've heard. I'm just sorry.
I think, and I was just talking about, and I did say earlier, if I wanted to win a cup, I'd assemble my roster a lot like that. But that team did not sniff being the best team ever. And I know they've done that this year. I mean, they broke the points record, but like I said earlier, they relied on winning in the third period and goaltending. And they were physical. They were tough. They were defensively sound. They played a really strong system game, but I mean, I didn't say they would lose, but the recipe was there for them to lose because they're lucky and they didn't deal with any issues all year. They're relatively healthy. And I mean,
they
Linus
pretty much
Olmark,
cruised through the season, didn't they?
yeah, but Linus Olmark's not like a Vesna winning goalie. He had an incredible year. Jeremy Swayman's like a top 15 goalie. Both of them are good. I wish they were on the Penguins, but neither one of those guys are someone I'd just crown to be my Stanley Cup goaltender, you know? Yeah. So
I'm curious. I'm curious because I heard this on another podcast, but what everybody's like the biggest upset in I guess sports history in their mind, not like the Appalachian State, Michigan, but like the dominant team that everybody expected to win it all falling, you know?
Yeah, I'll take this. That's easy. It was the 1980 U.S. hockey team that beat Russia.
Oh, yeah. That's a good one.
That's actually a really good one, yeah.
They played in an exhibition game like the week before, and Russia beat us like 10-3. Same team. And then we played them a week later at the Olympics, and we won 4-3 somehow. So, I mean, I think that far and away was one of, if not the biggest upset of all time in sports. That's just my opinion.
Well, I was of college
so
kids
I was watching it live, rooting on Team USA. My mom was, but I was just a 4-year-old kid. But I know the history of it, and that movie Miracle was fantastic, and I've seen documentaries on it and read stuff about it. So that's
well. Somebody on the radio brought up. I don't know if y'all remember this, but I remember being a little kid when this happened. But when the Red Sox came back from down 3-0 against the Yankees in 2004.
And Cam's out. Okay, so we're back to real life action.
Hey, look. So the reason why I say that is it's not because the Yankees were like the most dominant team in history, or anything like that. But you're up 3-0. You're up 3-0. I mean, the percentage chance of you losing that series is like, I mean, I don't know.
I am aware.
Yeah, I mean,
I am aware.
But I mean, that, in my opinion, I don't know if that's the biggest rivalry. My biggest one is the Golden State Warriors losing up 3-1 against the Cavs. That Warriors team seemed unbeatable at points. And I definitely didn't see – I mean, I know LeBron, he's great and all, but I definitely didn't see them coming back in that series.
Blew a 3-1 lead and lost Game 7 at home.
I mean, people think it's rigged. I mean, people still think, that series was rigged because, of all of that, but that was mind blowing to me that they lost that series.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Yeah, I mean, losing, we were coming back from the beach for that Game 7, so I didn't watch it, but I was listening to it on the radio in my earphones while I was driving home, listening to that game on the radio. To that Game 7. And by the time I got home, it was over. But it was cool listening to that on the radio. And when Kyrie hit that 3, that basically put the nail in the coffin, it was pretty cool listening to that on the radio. Yeah, that was a pretty big upset. That Yankees game was bullshit. The Yankees series, they did a 30 for 30 on it. Screw ESPN for bringing that back up. Next thing you know, they'll do one on the 2001 World Series and rip that scab open again.
Well,
anyways, so yeah, that was more of a choke job, really, Cam, than an upset, so to speak, because the Red Sox were good. They had good players, Hall of Fame players, and so that was more of a improbable comeback, I'd say, than an upset, than a technical upset.
Yeah, I agree. It's kind of a different vibe than the rest of them. But they were saying just because of being up 3-0, the statistics say that you're not going to lose that series. There's no way.
I would say, Fonzie, a big upset would be the Mazeroski Pirates when they beat the Yankees in the World Series, and the Yankees had murderers row. And if you look at the runs differential in that World Series, the Yankees outscored them by like 30 runs, but they lost in 7 games.
They won a game like want to say like 16-2, and then the next one was like 12-0 or something.
Yeah, it's just ridiculous. And then the
Yeah.
Pirates would win 2-1.
Yeah, I mean,
And then the Pirates ended up winning that series in 7 games. So that was a pretty big upset in terms of baseball.
As far as upsets go, mine, and I did not get to see this one live. I did see it a couple years after. Had to been Texas beating USC in the Rose Bowl in 05. That USC team, they were gunning for a 3rd national championship in a row.
I believe so.
Nobody really gave Texas a chance in that one, and Vince
Yeah,
Young doing
Vince
what
Young
he did.
went off in that game. That was
And
a fantastic
I
game
mean,
to
everybody,
watch.
that's been talked about as one of the best national championship games ever. And even me being a Homer Bama fan, I will say it is, as far as games that I've seen like that, it is definitely up there in my top 3, if not top 5, for sure.
Yeah, those USC teams dominated college football.
Yeah, they were
Dominating.
stacked.
However,
Thunder and lightning, baby.
I would just like to say I think that might have been the weakest era of SEC football possibly ever.
Yes.
Oh, without question.
And I mean, I'm not
Nick
joking.
Saban was in the NFL for that run.
Well,
So
but like you think about it, like USC, their biggest competition was Oklahoma in that time period. Like as far as
Notre Dame
at the top, I mean Notre Dame wasn't even good. I mean, like
I know, yeah.
there wasn't. It wasn't like what it is today. Like Alabama
they
was
blew
way
Oklahoma out of the stadium.
Yeah, I mean Alabama was way down.
Way.
It was just a different era. Now those teams were great, but like, look, what did Reggie Bush wind up doing in the NFL? What did Matt Leinart wind up doing in the NFL?
No.
I mean,
Bush had a productive career, but he wasn't like
No.
dominant like he was in college. But
Yeah.
he had a decent NFL career, but not like transcendent. He wasn't a transcendent draft pick.
I think the media really drooled over those USC teams because there's nothing better than like a Los Angeles-based team.
Hollywood, baby. Yeah.
it's
Tinseltown.
a lot of
Lipstick
people,
City.
a lot of people say that like Reggie Bush's Heisman campaign was kind of overrated. And like I mean, great teams. Don't get me wrong, but it was a very weak top to bottom college football landscape compared to what it is today.
Yeah.
Like I mean, that 05 season, Georgia won the SEC championship with 3 losses. So I mean, like like that was 05. I mean,
You finish in like 5th place if you have 3 losses now.
that was early Urban
It
Meyer.
happened to us
So Florida had not
this year.
they had not become the Urban Meyer Florida that they became.
Yeah.
It was just a different era.
Was that the what's his name from Illinois coach Ron Zook years?
No, that 05 season was Urban's first year at Florida.
Yeah,
He won the national championship the next season.
6.
and 6 and 8.
Tebow was a freshman.
Yeah.
He was the
Who
backup
was-
that year to Leak.
Leak.
Chris Leak.
Yep. And then he
'Cause
won the Heisman in 7, won it in 8,
No, he didn't win.
lost,
He won it in
No,
7. And
won it
then,
in 7,
won the
and
championship
won
in
the
8.
championship in 8. That's what I meant.
and then,
And
got
then
us
lost to
busted
us
in
in
09.
9.
Yeah.
Although if we were, again, Cameron likes to talk about us being, or any, not just us, but teams being year early. That was us before everything changed in 08. That was the start of something fantastic, that's for sure. And it's been a ride. It has been a
we were
ride.
probably a year early in 08. Then we ran
Well-
into the Gators in that championship game.
Speaking of great upsets from that era, though, I mean, this was back when bowl games meant something, but Boise State beating Adrian Peterson in Oklahoma.
That was awesome.
that
Yes.
was insane.
The
Yeah.
Statue
The
of
lineman.
Liberty.
Statue of Liberty play with the lineman. Yeah.
Because
That
Yeah.
was that was a hitch and go. Y'all remember the hitch and go play where he caught it and pitched it to him?
because
Was
that
that-
was
Is that
back.
Chris Peterson?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Jared Zabransky.
but that was back when the Sugar Bowl and the Fiesta Bowl and those games meant something. They actually had a meaning to them, and people. It wasn't that Oklahoma wasn't prepared for the game; it was that Boise State pulled out all the
Nothing to
stops
lose.
and
Yeah,
had
nothing to lose.
and threw it all out there. that was an era where BCS busters was not a common thing. Like BCS teams at that time didn't even have an automatic path to, or non-BCS teams didn't have an automatic path to those games. Like they had to qualify basically based on, ranking and all this kind of stuff. And so that was a really, really cool upset.
So
also,
I wanted. Sorry, no, go ahead, Hunter. I'm sorry.
I just wanted to say 08 was when the Giants upset the Patriots in the Super Bowl, right?
They did.
That was 07.
07, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
That was the year before.
Undefeated for,
Yeah.
That's a huge one.
Yeah. Eli Manning.
The helmet catch.
Eli Manning did it twice to him, which is hilarious. Even though I think, it's just one of the craziest things.
You're like
the Manning brothers.
You're like that goober Eli Manning beat Tom Brady twice in a Super Bowl.
Well, what's ironic is I obviously based on the stakes, I always, the 2007 one is always talked about, right, is the biggest upset. But the 2011 one felt to me at the time like, how is this even happening? Because New York that season went 9-7, and I remember like early in the year, people were like, "This team is they're just not good enough. They don't have enough talent. Their receiving depth is
squeaked in the playoffs."
And you got to think like they made it to the Super Bowl with Victor Cruz, Manningham as their primary targets. Like that. And
Manningham caught that insane throw in the Super Bowl that Eli threw, like over his back shoulder down the sideline.
Yeah, Ahmad Bradshaw was the starting running back with Brandon Jacobs. Of Southeast
Louisiana. Oh.
Yeah,
or Southeast Illinois, wherever he went.
And to me, it just felt like, Tom Brady, there's no way he loses a second one, and he sure as heck did.
That was the one that Welker dropped that ball, wasn't it?
Yep. Yeah.
Man.
It's okay. What's his buddy ended up making up for it a couple years later against Atlanta, coming back down from whatever that fantastic score was. What was it? 20-something to what? 20-something to 7?
Talking about the 25-point lead.
Yeah. What was it? Somebody got to know that stat or that score.
The Falcons Super Bowl?
Yeah. What was that? They were down
28-3.
28-3, and they come back and blow it. Idiots.
They beat him in overtime.
I remember in college watching that.
Yep.
It's a big watch party.
You just don't choke that. There's no – I still don't think it's humanly possible to do that. But they did it somehow, some way. Matt Ryan and company. You have Julio Jones, and you just don't – you just choke it. You just screw it up.
Old Kyle Shanahan, poor guy, can't call plays in the Super Bowl. He loses his mind.
Well, it's a good thing that Matt Ryan never did that again.
Or ever came close to even coming close to doing that again.
That was he was like, it's like that with that thing, like the dollar when they're putting it in front of your face. Oh, you almost had it. You gotta be quicker than that.
Snatch it right from under him.
That
poor son of a gun.
Well, couldn't happen to a better guy.
We didn't get to all our draft grades of our teams. I did pop some graphics in here for our amazing Steelers and their awesome draft right here.
A+.
Quick thoughts before we get out of here.
Of course, we'll talk about the amazing Dolphin picks.
Don't worry about it, dude. I got you here. I got the Dolphins here. We're not there yet, but I do have the Dolphins draft class. Pay attention to this draft class for the Steeler fans that might happen to come across this. This is going to go down as one of the best, I think. That top row
easily
is sick. Nick Herbig, I think, is going to be a sleeper. Don't know much about these last two other than his depth.
Cam Trice, he's big, so I think he dropped because he is a little slower. He can fill a very specific role for us that we need, which is kind of the Terrell Edmonds, like drop down in the box, play in the slot a little bit.
Physical.
Like I said, he dropped because of his speed, but this was a guy that was projected to be a third-round pick. And we got him in the 7th round. So,
wow.
I love it.
That's a good pick then.
I'm actually
stole Darnell Washington.
I was about to say that. So I was talking when we were on the show last week. Broderick Jones being a great pick. Joey Porter Jr., that's a legacy pick. His dad was a Hall of Famer.
The fact he fell to the 2nd round, I couldn't believe it. Like when the round ended and he was still on the board, I was like, that's it. We're taking him first pick tomorrow.
The Darnell Washington pick, I think, is going to be the two Georgia picks are going to be detrimental coming up for this next year. Those are going to be dominant for the run game too, and to protect Kenny Pickett for their stuff. So I think those are great picks.
Washington's a freak, man. He's like 6'8", 275 pounds. It's like,
things are about to happen.
Even Canada can find something to do with this guy, right?
Well, next thing Steelers need to do is get another offensive coordinator. But that's going to rip that Band-Aid off.
Because we just signed Nick Herbig's brother Nate, in the offseason, the offensive lineman. So I think this Nick Herbig is going to be a sleeper too. With the Wisconsin connection with T.J. Watt, I guarantee you that they know each other through. Even though Watt hadn't played there in a while, but I have to believe that the Wisconsin guys have some connection somehow. He's been back for something, back for games, back for practices, for spring game, whatever at Wisconsin. So there's two Wisconsin guys we got. But I love the depth with Keanu Benton. That's a great pick for the defensive line. Like, this is going to be a great draft, I think. And if you look at the Pro Football Focus draft grade, hang on, let me get it where you can see it. It was an A+. So Pro Football Focus even gave us an A+ on the draft. I was extremely happy with the draft for this.
I mean, every pick was above value. Spencer Anderson even was a big-time interior line. He's a little bit of a project.
The
but
Maryland
he's a
guy,
guy. We got in the 7th. So
big bodies for the line. I love that. Hunter, in honor of you, here's the Dolphins stellar draft. I know a little bit about Cam Smith just from him being the SEC.
That's the one that stuck out to me.
Which one?
Cam Smith.
Yeah. I don't know much about the A&M guy. I don't remember much about him.
Yeah.
He flies. He's fast.
Speed? Okay.
Really fast. Yeah.
Oh, that'll be good.
And then what is Higgins? Is he a receiver?
Yeah.
Yeah, he's receiver.
Okay. And then I'm guessing the offensive lineman here with this Hayes from Michigan.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, that's not gonna blow anybody away, but the Pro Football Focus did give the Dolphins a B.
Anything to protect Tua,
a B-
especially on that
on the
offensive
draft
line.
Grade. What's left of Tua?
What's left of Tua? Yeah, y'all need to work. Y'all need to get a backup quarterback at least.
I was actually a little shocked that they didn't
take a quarterback.
They didn't take a QB somewhere. Yeah,
I think they're planning for next year because I mean they'll have a first round draft or a first round pick next year, won't they?
Have to do it next year.
Cam, the Titans draft grade was an A.
That actually kind of surprises me.
Yeah.
But I thought Skoronski and Levis were great.
I like the Skoronski pick. I wanted us to get either Paris Johnson or Skoronski, but I'm very happy with Broderick Jones, dominant left tackle from the SEC. I'm totally fine with that. Just their head's in the right place. Moved up to get an elite left tackle. They got one of the top-rated defensive backs. Like you said, Fonzie, lower. They got him lower than he was rated. You know, he was graded out as a first-rounder, I think. The fact we got him with the Claypool pick is even better.
Yeah, he's a top 20 prospect.
Yeah.
I mean, every single one of those guys. I think I saw something. I think Benton was the only one we drafted over value, and it was only by 11 picks. So at that point, you're drafting needs.
Did wonders with this
position.
draft.
Yeah, great.
I'm very impressed. Very impressed with that. So
for the Steelers,
anyway,
I'm actually kind of surprised that you guys are happy with the draft because I remember in that live stream in the beginning, there was a lot of panic.
Yeah. Because all the linemen were going, and I was like, they're not doing anything. They're not moving. They're sitting here.
Wait till the 17th.
They are just going to sit there and watch all the elite tackles get picked off the board, and they'll wind up taking somebody, a linebacker at 17 or something.
Yeah.
I knew that was going to happen. But when it popped up that we made that trade, I knew we were going to get a lineman. They had to have. They wouldn't have done that unless the left tackle was there they wanted. So I thought that was big time move. Loved it.
I think they were going to stick with the 17th, but I think they got like a sniff that somebody was about to pick them up.
Yes.
So
that's what you did. You get a sniff.
The Jets were going to take them.
Yeah.
They were. So, So anyway, but We didn't really. This is a good episode, man. We just kind of touched on a lot of things. Cam, it's good having you back, dude. It's always good when you're back in the mix, man. Conversation flows good when you're in the game.
Yeah, thank you. It's nice to be back.
So hopefully we'll see more of you going forward. But anyway, has anybody else got anything to add before we sign off for this post-draft episode, which I'm sure we'll get back into some draft talk, down the line as well. But anybody got anything else they want to add?
Did y'all see Acuna got injured? Shocker.
Well, he got hit in the back after he drilled an 800-foot home run by the chump pitcher for the whoever they're playing, the Mets.
It's the Mets.
It was on purpose.
Yeah, I mean, he hit a
They're afraid to
600-foot
face
home
him.
run into the third deck in left center, and the very next at bat, he gets drilled in the back and leaves the game. I was like,
It's okay. He'll be back next week probably.
but when he went out injured 2 years ago, they won the World Series, so maybe it's smart.
They proved they didn't need him.
Yeah, they kind of took off after he got hurt. That kind of had me worried, but anyway. Anyway, well, if that's all anybody's got, fellas, it was good seeing everyone. Good hanging out for this hour. I love these Tuesday nights. We can just get to talk sports and cut up and enjoy just hanging out. So good seeing everyone. If nobody else has anything to add, we're going to sign off here and see everybody next time.